How you doing, meat? Um, okay, real quick, just like every other show, quick prayer. Lord, guide my words tonight. Help us do your will now and forever. Amen. All
Amen.
right. This one I thought would be a great show to bring some levity because the last couple of shows that we've done have been a little bit on the edgier and sort of dark side with all of the recent pedo activity in the government. So we're going to talk a little bit of Bigfoot. We have Nate and Thomas. You guys want to introduce yourself and let everybody know where they can find you before we jump in? Nate, why don't
Sure,
you go?
absolutely. Yeah, we are the Reality Czars. It's a fun, defunct, almost podcast that we're going to start pumping episodes out again. I had to take, how dare you disgrace this wonderful show by having Nate on it. Too bad, Patrick. Fuck you. And we're here. We're queer. Get used to it. The Reality Czars. We are going hard again. Hard in the paint. We're going to make some fantastic content again. I already have some fun people lined up. Come check us out, I guess, if you want to. But the real talent is right down here is the great
Yes, it is.
Thomas, aka the Paranoid Motherfucking American. Go to paranoidamerican.com.
No, you already did all the plugs and everything, man. That was fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, I'm the Paranoid American, the resident, ex-military, ex-Disney, current Freemason. So I'm here to just make sure that you guys don't go too far off the lane.
Thomas has kept me out of prison many times. He actually kept me off the Epstein list. I was mentioned several times. He made sure my name was redacted. So thank you, Thomas.
That said, I may need your help, but let's talk about that later. Drew, say hi real quick.
What's everybody? Shit Show co-host on X or Luminary Mixdown on IG.
All right. Again, all jokes aside, I greatly appreciate you guys coming on. Thomas, I really appreciate it. You don't know me that well, and I highly doubt you've ever seen one of my shows. So I really appreciate you coming on because this is going to be a fun topic. I think. I mean, and to be honest, I don't even know where we start. But maybe. Well, let's try this. Nate, where did you start with this Bigfoot thing, Sasquatch? What's the term? What's the PC term that you guys use? Is Bigfoot like a derogatory term, or is it Sasquatch, or what?
Well, if there was one, I would say the opposite because I've never been PC my entire life. I'm still in seventh grade in my head. I say like faggot and retard. Just that's my common everyday vernacular, and I should probably clean it up. And sorry to everyone that I just hurt. Sorry, guys, but no, I've been calling him Bigfoot my entire life. And how I kind of got into this was I was just a fucking stoner kid that was like growing and smoking pot out in the redwood forest. And I would be hanging out with like old men that were old time pot growers, and we'd be around the campfire drinking beer and fucking smoking joints, and they'd tell us about Bigfoot sightings. And to them, it wasn't a story. This was fucking, they were telling us about, I saw Bigfoot. This isn't a fucking joke. These weren't legends, these were real. Yeah, man. So I've been looking for Bigfoot my entire life. I was just a fucking stoner, dumb kid that was running through the woods.
And for
You
me,
ever seen
Bigfoot
him?
was just movies. Bigfoot was Harry and the Hendersons. That was
Yeah.
that was my intro, and that's still when someone says Bigfoot, that's the first thing that I really see in the back of my head.
That's interesting. So I'm. This is the question that comes to mind anytime somebody brings up Bigfoot. Now, are you familiar with Doc Brown's work, saying that Esau was the first Bigfoot?
Definitely,
We
yeah.
talked about it before
Prometheus
he did.
Friends.
But yes, yeah, Doc Brown is great. Shout out Doc Brown.
So you broke the ice on that. I was
I don't
unaware.
know who broke the ice on that, but we were talking about it before I knew who he was. But Doc Brown is the man, so shout out Doc Brown.
Outstanding. Okay. So you concur with him then? Then it seems like it's feasible at least.
I love that theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's a fantastic idea. Yeah, and I mean it makes a lot of sense. Like the first person that told me about it actually was an insanely amazing guy named Scott who was telling me all about it. So this was back in 2022. He broke it down for me, and we had Scott Pace. His name is Scott Pace. He's an experiencer. He told us all about his stuff. He's been on the show probably once or twice. And dude, he's a wealth of knowledge as well as like he actually told me some of the stories that are in our pamphlet that we are going to put out here pretty soon. Whenever
It's
we get
ready.
to it. It's ready, yeah.
Pamphlet. Expand on that. What do you mean pamphlet? What is this?
So if everyone here wants to, and this will be our finishing pitch as well, but it goes to doesbigfootexist.com. If anyone's familiar with Thomas's work, he makes fantastic comic books, and yeah, like these, like Are You Under the Illuminati right here. And so right there, Thomas, is that the one that you did with Donut?
Yeah, this is the Illuminati comic that I did with Donut, and if you recognize this format, it's based on what's known as a Chick track, which were these little underground like Christian comics that Jack T. Chick put out in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But we basically took that same format, and it's in color, and it's all just about conspiracy theories. So this one was about the Illuminati and Jesuits and Rosicrucians and Freemasons and Knights Templar and everything. But we're going to have another one of these that I've been working on with Nate for the last 2 years that covers every historical Bigfoot. We give props to Doc Brown in there. We've give props to everybody. I think we've gotten pretty much all the Bigfoot like experts to weigh in on this, and they all get like little shout outs. And we cover multiple biblical aspects of Bigfoot, Mormon versions, Catholic versions, versions from like the Pacific, like all just every worldwide version of Bigfoot. The intent was to make a single reference guide that also was like illustrated and like a little pocket sized. So I don't think anything really like that exists. There's all kinds of Bigfoot books and Bigfoot comics, but not like a nice little Chick track style. Here is every single Bigfoot indexed and where they come from and their names and all the consistencies between them.
And what's cool about those is like, as a little evangelical kid, I grew up in the church. Like my pastor and like whoever used to stuff my pockets with those. I don't know if you're familiar with those Chick tracks. And like the most famous one, it looked like $100 bill that was folded up, and like someone would pick it up and be like, "You know what's really priceless? The love of Jesus." Like, you know, and you'd be like, "Motherfucker," and chuck it. You know what I mean? But like, it's supposed to be really easy and digestible. You're supposed to pick it up, and like, so like something like this is enticing. You're like, what does the Illuminati have it? So ours is, does Bigfoot exist? And like, dude, it just breaks down literally every single theory you can think about. It's easy digestible. You can throw it like, let's say you're at the dentist's office, just drop one on the table, you know, or at the bar, you put it in the bathroom, you know, and just somebody picks it up and goes, what the fuck? You know, and you just
crash in a bar though, in the bar bathroom.
I always picked it up, and I was always looking for a little cocaine residue.
You're right on the back of that thing too.
Do me a favor and see if you can look up doesbigfootexist.com. I just tried, and I don't want to get sidetracked. See if you can find it real quick so we can bring it up. Okay.
It should go to a Kickstarter.
It just goes to a Kickstarter page.
Oh, is that what it? Maybe I scrolled past it because it was. Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty cool, though. It was funny. I posted a picture earlier today. This is not a topic that we talk about often, and I drove past a pond, and in the middle of the pond, there was a stone Bigfoot. I'm sure if you were on X, you've seen it, but what are the chances of that? Like, you know, like it's just like a massive stone Bigfoot right in the middle of this pond. But, I mean, let's just do this. The floor is either one of yours. You go ahead, tell whatever it is. If you have evidence, if you want me to share screen, if there's any pictures, just let me know. But I'm super curious to see. I guess the first question, if there was any of them, has either one of you actually seen the Bigfoot, or been, you know, did you actually go hunting for the Bigfoot before, you know, things like that?
I'll let you go, Nate, because you've been hunting.
I've been hunting. You can watch our first documentary that we put out. Me and my friends, we have a paranormal team. We're called the Anomaly Hunters, and you can follow us on YouTube. Our full documentary, it's a short, sweet, and quick one. It's about a half hour, I think. And I brought my eldest son with me, and we went and my buddy and his buddy, and we went out and we went and hunted for Bigfoot. And since then, we've done a bunch of different hunts, and we're mostly looking for ghosts and different things like that. But yes, we absolutely had an experience with Bigfoot, and I would say that it was not a physical one. And so this kind of gets you to the question, what the fuck is Bigfoot? You know, because there's been so many different explanations for Bigfoot. Like he is he's Gigantopithecus. He is like a an ancestor of ours that has been around for hundreds of millions of years. He evolved alongside of us, and we went this way and he went that way. That's like the mainstream, what like the old school guys would tell you, and he's just our cousin that lives in the woods. But then if you kind of get into some of the natives explanations, and then if you talk to like the Maori, the Australians and things, they will tell you that he's actually a spiritual creature. That you can see him physically, but it's just kind of a manifestation, and that this is like again, more of like a spiritual creature. And so, I mean, I think that's more along the line of like, it's kind of the old argument: are aliens flesh and blood, or are they something interdimensional? And I think it doesn't have to be either or. I kind of think it might be both. And it's kind of, so we can kind of dive in anywhere into this. But Thomas, should we start at like, I don't know, the Anunnaki, or where should we talk about?
Shit.
Well, I think maybe we were talking about Doc Brown stuff, so like the biblical aspects might be a fun one to start and branch out. And I just want to point out too that I think what makes Bigfoot so interesting is that it's the perfect entry point for conspiracy theories, right? It's like the ultimate cryptid. You can tell your 3-year-old about Bigfoot. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to get into science fiction. And it's really just like there's a hairy version of a human that's somewhere out there, and who knows if he's good or bad. But most part, in modern Bigfoot, when I think of Bigfoot, I think most of us do, you're not thinking of like a savage creature that's going to like, rip you to shreds. Maybe some people do, especially if like Dogman's involved. But usually it's going to be some sort of a creature that is conscious and wouldn't necessarily try and hurt you. So it has a higher level of consciousness than say like a monkey or an ape, which makes it more interesting. And I guess it's right on the cusp of paranormal. I don't even know if I would consider it paranormal, because there's so many stories that date back historically hundreds and thousands of years and even beyond that. And again, every single culture and country across the entire world, it seems. So this one like universal wild man, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti version. He's got like over 100 different names. So the biblical part I do think is interesting. So let's get with what Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens usually breaks down as Esau, and that Esau has this short little blip where he like comes in from the field and he gets like everything stolen from him or something. I'm not going to go into like the whole detail. You should go and watch.
I got you.
All
Yeah.
of it. But the premise was that it started with Nimrod. That Nimrod had this like special coat. I almost liken it to like Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, but this is like the Wild Man version. This is like the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, the Revenant or whatever. It's like the Revenant version of the Electricolor Dreamcoat. And so when he gets this, it basically signifies you are the master hunter, master fighter, like the top dog. And whoever basically owns this particular coat, maybe you get some kind of special powers. Who knows? Like, because one of the deeper angles that Doc goes down to is that maybe this was even the snake skin from the snake in the Garden of Eden, and it has like all sorts of mystical properties, and maybe it's like a Harry Potter sort of like disappearing cloak or something. It's hard to quantify exactly where that story links to, but essentially it's that whoever had this coat and whoever had this hair had some sort of mystical property to them. So that's like the most general version of it without like trying to pinpoint what something means in particular. And I think that's mind blowing because again, we're talking something that dates back thousands of years at this point.
Right. For me, whenever I'm thinking of Bigfoot, it's sort of along the lines of you definitely don't want to run into it, because in my mind, when they don't want to be seen, they're just not seen. And so if you are seeing it, it's probably not going to go well. That's just me on a cursory, like from the outside looking in, where I'm thinking it's sort of like a bear in a way, where like you don't want to surprise them.
I
You
think
know what I mean?
that you don't want to see a Bigfoot because that means you're probably gonna get your mind wiped by the little Men in Black pen. And I don't know how many times you can do that before it starts having some long lasting effects.
100%, man. And
Almost like not wanting to be a witness to a crime.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, I mean,
You're the loose end that's got to get tied up.
So I just want to acknowledge a couple comments we got going over here. So Patrick Shout says, assuming Bigfoot is real, what kind of hog would he be packing? We will be getting into that because that actually is an important part of the
Would you just
story.
get into it now? That's one of my favorite tangents.
And then
Do it.
Meat Cavern says, imagine being in the woods and running into Thomas. Yeah. Thomas, if you had a little bit more hair on top, dude, if you had that jacket, I would totally buy your Bigfoot.
Well, talk about Bigfoot's hog, man. Like you're the
Oh,
one
boy.
that heard the theory, and it's one of my favorite theories.
Well,
Oh,
so
boy.
there's a ton about Bigfoot hog, right? So I mean, and I've heard. Okay, unfortunately, we had somebody that I don't even know if I aired that podcast, and I hope I still have the footage, and I probably should at least for a blooper reel. Had a guy come on and talked about his experience being raped by Bigfoot.
Oh, boy.
and he was, I'm doing my best to keep a straight face. Thomas has been with me where we've had some interesting conversations with people where I'm fucking biting my lip until it's bleeding. Just trying not to, because I'm trying to, I'm trying to be, trying to take this seriously. And when somebody's telling you a rape story, like, I believe it happened. I just don't know if it was Bigfoot. So anyways, he told.
I wish you had that footage because that would be perfect. If we could just pull that one up right now, because I mean, I can't help but laugh, but that is outstanding. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Of the rape itself?
The whole thing, the fact that he's telling this story and he's probably trying to be sincere, and there's Nate in the background trying to bite his lip, and I guarantee you anybody listening is probably laughing. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just seemed like it would be great to watch. If you ever get a chance, you should definitely post it.
So this might have even been pre-Thomas. I don't know if you were there, Thomas. When I don't know if you were
The one that I was thinking about too wasn't just that guy, but that there was a story that a woman saw Bigfoot, like I guess from across the field, and saw what he was packing, and it immediately caused her.
Have you guys seen the movie Orgasmo? It was a
like an orgasmo ray, like just
Orgasmo Ray.
getting a glimpse of it. Apparently, it's so big and massive that your brain goes into a special mode where it can't not be enamored by it. Almost like, I guess, like what is it when the vampires do like the shimmering or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like there's like a shimmering aspect to it.
Where
I have to say that I had no idea that this was going to come up, and I'm not surprised considering, but I would have never guessed that this was going to be part of it. But please continue.
So, I mean, if anyone here hasn't seen Orgasmo, it's probably one of the best films that was ever created ever. It was Matt Stone and Trey Parker made a superhero movie of a guy that made a ray that if he shoots you with it, you come. You can't stop coming. And yeah, drop the Orgasmo link, says me. So apparently, maybe this was written. I mean, somebody that was in the know about Bigfoot, because apparently, if you see that swinging hog, apparently it's like a baseball bat that just kind of flaps in the wind when he runs. And if you get a glimpse of this magnificent phallus, you instantly come.
I've heard similar things about Willem Dafoe.
Kevin Bacon as well.
Interesting. All right. I don't even know where to go from there.
I can bring it to that. We're talking Bible, right? We're still in the Bible stuff. So not only is
Let's
that
make it about Jesus again.
story of Esau and maybe Nimrod, but then you also have the Hairy Mary, and the Hairy Mary was something that I don't even think Doc had heard of until we started getting all into it. So Hairy Mary is, if you go back, I think the earlier ones were like in the 1400s, and then there's a few. I want to say there's like 6 or 7 different ones in medieval art, and basically it's just Mary Magdalene with an asterisk. We'll get into that, but that Mary Magdalene is depicted with hair all over her body, and I don't just mean like she has long hair, but I mean like she has hair coming out of her shoulders, off her arms, off, like her entire body is completely covered in hair, and that this has been likened to another example of maybe this was a depiction of some sort of like a Bigfoot, and it's not just symbolic. And if you peel the layers back a little bit on Hairy Mary, it gets even more interesting, because technically there was at least 2 or even 3 different Hairy Marys, but I guess the the Bible only had room for one lady named Mary that was also hairy. So they've all kind of been like mushed together into one. So typically, if you find the artwork and it's related to the Bible,
The
it's going to
Vatican
be
is hiding
Magdalene.
Sasquatch.
But historically, it was actually based on Mary of Egypt, and Mary of Egypt was a woman that had a rough life apparently, and then decided that she was going to escape and go and live out into the desert by herself. And she did that for a number of years, and every year, certain I want to say I'm just going to make up cardinal. It was like cardinals would go out and they would have to do some kind of like a soul quest, once a year, and one of these guys would go out into the desert and he kept running into this Mary of Egypt who had hair all over her body, but also she had grown her hair to like cover herself for modesty, but she didn't wear clothes anymore. And he ended up turning her into almost like a patron saint. So now you have this Mary of Egypt who's a hairy Mary, who's a historical person, and then you have the stories of Mary Magdalene as a hairy Mary, which maybe not be historical as much as it is symbolic. But it's wild to know that even the symbolic version of this was based on a real live human being called Harry Mary.
Interesting. I had never heard I've actually heard somebody say Harry Mary before, but I always thought it was like somebody just making fun of somebody. But I think that one of the more interesting parts and the reason why people kind of lean into it at times is because you can see people that have genetic abnormalities where they have like hair, like patches of hair or their whole body's covered in hair and it's sort of like the Wolfman thing or whatever. It lends a little it lends a little bit of evidence, I guess you could say, to people that can't imagine it to see that it's actually possible in some ways. So, I mean, I'd never heard of a Harry Mary in actual history before. That's interesting.
We have Saint Onefrius as well. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he was a mystic, a desert hermit that ran away. And so this is like the early church, the 4th century A.D. So he was mentioned in the writings of Panapolypius, an Egyptian monk who claimed to have visited him, and he lived in the desert for 60 years, and he was covered head to toe in hair. Extremely long beard. Most of his body was covered. He was often naked. He had been red-haired in his younger youth. He was depicted as feral yet holy. And let me see here. I have some images of him. If I could.
And say if you want, you can share it. I'll put it up. But that the red hair thing is definitely a theme that keeps coming up. Anytime somebody talks about it, it's usually somebody covered in red or reddish hair, which is also very interesting.
And
Yeah, dude.
there's usually a scent that goes with it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get into like the interesting and perhaps like Nephilimic. I don't know how to say that. Nephilimic connections there with
You nailed it.
Bigfoot. Yeah.
But that I actually think I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I actually think that is pretty interesting though, because there is a lot of stories, I guess you could say, about that being a trait, a Nephilim trait, being for certain ones, being covered in hair. Um, what do you think of that, Thomas? Do you think that's a thing? Is this a Nephilim thing?
I think there's a strong possibility just because if you scale back the over the top stories and pictures and depictions of Nephilim, a lot of like the giants of the Bible, when they're talking about these giants, they were talking like 7 foot. You know what I mean? They weren't necessarily saying 20 foot or 50 foot impossible giants. They were just talking about like really tall people. And I think it's Gary Wayne that we've had on the show before. And he goes really hard on this one. And I think he makes such a strong case that essentially the Nephilim were just these really strong stock that came from maybe if you want to say like the Amazonians, like whatever, whoever's left over is the Amazonians. It was like if you could go and reproduce with one of them, then they would give you these jacked, offspring. And if you're jacked offspring, if you have enough of them and they have enough offspring, their army of 7.5 foot giants are going to decimate all these pygmies on the battlefield. So it might have just started off as a purely rational, practical, tactical thing. and then over time it turns into like lore and stories, and oh my god, they were 20 feet tall, and and they came down and they had superpowers, maybe, but I think that there's might be like a practical version behind all this too.
Yeah, 100%.
Ever,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah. Have you ever heard a blood trait like Rh negative being associated with these things also?
And red hair, right?
And red hair.
And I mean,
Yeah.
and not to go too much on a tangent, but a lot of these traits are also brought up very frequently in like MK Ultra research. People that are able to disassociate in and out, almost like professionally, are also rumored to have these same traits: red hair, Rh negative, everything else.
I recently just found out my mother is Rh negative, and there's other weird stories that I could tell you. I think we've been fucked with a lot, actually. My weird family. We'll get
Was
into
on
that
the
later. 'Cause
fence.
there's nothing to do with Bigfoot. Yeah.
Dude, Nate, I was on the fence about saying this, but there's red hair in my family and I'm Rh negative. So I'm starting to feel like I might be I might be some kind of hybrid. I'm also 6'4", so I think I'm hitting all the
I
bells
am
here.
not 6'4", by the way, so I'm far from 6'4".
Yeah,
I wonder
6'4"
if we
be considered like more of a mutt of the species anyway. 7.5 feet, 8 feet. That's fucking crazy tall.
well, we're watered down at this point. That's why you lose a few inches over the centuries, you know. Um, but it is interesting though. I mean, I have to say because it's a reoccurring theme. I ask about the Rh negative because that also always seems to get tied back to this thing, especially something about the Basque. There's some connection with Nephilim, Rh negative blood, and the Basque that there supposedly was red hairy men that will throw giant boulders in the Basque region. And if I'm wrong, forgive me, but I'm remembering off the top of my head, but it's something like that. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, actually, I think that Top Lobster brought this up, and there was a connection here to Santa Claus as well. I don't
Yeah.
remember all the details, but that Santa Claus was also somehow tied into Basque culture and Bigfoot.
Yeah. Oh, be a Nephilim. How do we not do that? All right. So we were going sort of down the biblical line. Is that basically, is there anything else on that end? Because I actually find that pretty interesting that
Yeah,
some of it.
there was another report of a Mormon elder, and the Mormon missionary had been walking, and this was in the United States, and he was just walking around through his travels, and he claimed to have come across an actual, like a literal Bigfoot, a tall man with red hair, and he smelled, and all the traits that you're normal used to seeing. But because this was early Mormon church, I believe this was 19th century, so 1800s, and he said that he struck up a conversation with Bigfoot. Apparently, Bigfoot could speak English, and that Bigfoot told him that he was also the biblical Cain, and that he had been cursed to wander the earth ever since that, like, days of old, and that he was covered in this hair, and it was part of the curse of Cain. Essentially, was that he had to go around. So this also becomes an interesting point where even people that grow up sheltered in like a Mormon bubble in Salt Lake City, and they're not allowed to use the internet, and they're not allowed to watch X-Files and get into all this stuff, they also have their own Bigfoot story. Like, it's impossible to keep Bigfoot out of even the most secluded group that's trying to prevent anyone from being influenced from outside. Like, you're still going to get a Bigfoot story.
Is everywhere, isn't it? Like you see it in all cultures on all the continents. There's some version of this everywhere.
The difference is usually just in the size of them, and like maybe the noises that they make. Sometimes they're a little bit more mischievous. For example, in the Vietnam War, there were also stories of these like rock apes, and the rock apes were also conflated with wild men, and that they would attack troops. And what makes this one particularly interesting is that this wasn't just like natives and people writing into their paper and just like the local hoo-ha. These were military and enlistees and officers that were writing up actual field reports and saying, like, this is crazy, we ran into these like wild men looking things that weren't monkeys. And so that again, like you have biblical, you have historical, you have government documented, you've got all sorts of different versions of this story. So really, again, it winds all the way back to being the absolute perfect entry point, because then it's like, well, let's say that they are real. Why have they been suppressed? Who's suppressing them? Like, what's the point behind this? And now you're getting in the conspiracy theory mode, because then you're trying to justify, like, how could all this be?
I mean, do you have a theory on that? Like why they can't, why they're not, why has nobody ever bagged one? Why is there no real evidence? Like, is there something that you can attribute to that?
For me, I think it's the same with aliens. Like, if they're really that smart, then they know to stay the hell away from humans. Like, we're not ready to not be a mortal danger to them, because the second that they're here, they're immediately going under the scalpel, right? They're immediately going to
Yeah.
get poked and prodded. So they probably realize, if they are real at all, which I'm on the fence, I'm like 50-50, but if they are, the only way they've survived this long is because they're smart enough to stay away from people.
Or, hear me out, our government absolutely knows about them. 100%. And so we'll jump down. There's a few things that it could be, because like we could get into the European hairy man. We could go down that route, because like my good friend Andy from the Deep Share, he talks about this where he thinks it's just all white people. So he's talking about like let's say the Mediterraneans, that like the Italians facing these Vikings, basically these big hairy red-headed giants to them. They freak the fuck out and go, "What the hell is this?" And this starts this whole story of the European, like, hairy man, those wild men, and that goes forever. Or we could get into like something that maybe is, let's go physical. So, like the story that Scott Pace told me. Well, okay, this is a combo actually, because I there's another story too. So one of the stories, Scott Pace did not shoot this Bigfoot, but Scott Pace had a psychic connection with this Bigfoot. But this other story, there's a man who was very similar actually, was looking down a scope. He was hunting. He was in a hunting blind, and he sees what to him was like, what the fuck is that? That thing is huge. It's moving. It stands up, and this thing is like an 8-foot tall, hairy Bigfoot. He goes, holy shit. And he takes a shot. He kills this thing. And he runs down there, and he's like, dude, holy shit, I killed Bigfoot. And he goes down there, and he's met by some men in black, some dudes in suits that look funny and weird. And he goes over there, and they go, you didn't see a fucking thing. And he goes, what? He goes, get out of here, or you're going to fucking disappear. So this guy gets the hell out of there. And it tells a story. And so to me, like, I remember, so I always go down this tangent, and stop me whenever you want, but like I was with the wife. This was our honeymoon. We were in Yellowstone, and then we went down to the Grand Tetons. And while we were at the Grand Tetons, we took this little lake cruise, which you can take to, it's called Elk Island. And you pay a couple $100. You go down there, and they make a really nice meal for you. You take this little boat out to this island. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. But as we're sitting there talking with one of the park rangers, they're telling us, they're like, look, if you shoot one of these animals, that's a $10,000 fine. It doesn't matter. There's like, if there's a fucking bear eating your wife's head and you shoot it, I don't fucking care the reason why. It's $10,000. And they told me the story. They were like, look, like a couple summers ago, a guy accidentally hit a deer. They said every single one of our animals is chipped. Every single one of them has a fucking chip. We can see their heart beating, like just kind of the normal shit. We can tell where they are in the park. And this guy hit a deer, and we could tell instantly. We're like, we got a blip, like bleep. This deer got hit. Here's on the road. And so they shut down the entrances completely, all the entrances and exits. And so they went through every campground until they found the car that had the blood and hair on the car, and they served this guy with his $10,000 fine. And so I was sitting there, maybe I was high, I don't know, but I was sitting there having this idea as this guy was telling me the story about how he was met with the men in black. Like instantly, he fucking shot that deer. He jumped out of the fucking mini blind, his blind, and ran down there, and he was met with the men in black. And to me, it's this idea that like what if they are just being tracked and traced? Like every single one of these Bigfoots have a chip in them, and they're just these wild creatures. And I don't know their intelligence, to be honest with you, because stories vary. Like to the most extreme, these guys are like spiritual gurus, and we'll get into that telepathic communication. Or these guys are just some fucking wild apes, because this guy just blasted a monkey, a giant monkey, and these men in black came and fucking met with him. And it gets to this idea that like maybe like there's so much of the United States that is just owned by the federal government, that that's just their land and you're not allowed on it, you're not allowed to see it. What if they have open, like to me, like not a safari per se, but something similar to that, like a big open closed fenced in, like where they have these Bigfoots. And why are they hiding them? That's a good question. Maybe it explains too much. Maybe I don't know exactly why they're hiding them. But I thought, man, maybe this is where all the fucking Bigfoots are. And maybe every single one of them is being tracked and traced and being held in. And it's funner to me. Like, how much fun would it be to be one of the men in black that get to, like, you sit there and get to, like, hang out with Bigfoot? You just kind of keep an eye on him. And it's even funner if Bigfoot is kind of like a telepathic interdimensional being, and these are kind of like the interdimensional men in black that kind of just like. I love this idea, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, I could see. I don't know. You know how the government. Sometimes you're in awe about what they're capable of doing, but as far as it being a protected species, I mean, that's not crazy. I mean, who knows? I mean, it would make sense, I guess, if they were aware of it. I always lean more towards that it's a hyper intelligent animal that doesn't want to be seen. Like that's usually where I'm thinking. Like that it's just smart enough to evade. And if it is biblical, it probably possesses some form of camouflage, cloak, or whatever. Because just judging off Doc Brown's work, it's sort of interesting because it's the only theory I've heard that made any sense. You know, like where they would have came from, the idea of what they were, their stories that fit that description through antiquity, and it just sort of made sense to me. But I mean, I'm with you though. I don't know. I don't know for sure. What do you think, Thomas?
I'm on the fence if all of this is just like fairy tales or not, but it does again. One of my rules when it comes to like conspiracies and all this is how many coincidences until you start thinking there's something more to it. For most people, like I would say like a hardcore conspiracy theorist, like one coincidence and they're like someone planned this, like the Illuminati's behind this. And then you've got
Yeah.
some hardheads that even after like 7 coincidences, they're just like, man, probability and statistics, some things that, but like when you start adding up all the consistencies with the Bigfoot stories, again, across cultures, across thousands of year time periods, across different religions and folklore, and the amount of consistency across these, it hits a point where even if you're a hardhead, you're probably at least going to think like, okay, maybe there has to be at least something to this. What is this? I mean, and the deepest you can get down this angle would be like going into like Fraser's Golden Bough, where he's got like a 12 or 13 page or 13 book series about all the consistencies between cultures, and I guess like the wild man kind of fits in this. So like if you're an academic and you don't call it Bigfoot or Sasquatch or Yeti, you might just call it wild man. But now even the academic circles have another version, and even the European wild man is also a mystery to these people. So it's almost like it doesn't matter what you call it. Every sort of field of research has at least a serious version of this, and then you have the fun ones where Bigfoot's telepathic and Men in Black show up, and what the other one too is the missing 411. Do I have that right? Is that the right number?
Yeah. Yep. Missing 411. We can hop into that one. And I think that is kind of interesting and compelling too. It's this, so if you look at the data that's compiled, and you look at the people that have gone missing in like major like national parks and different things, but just people that have gone missing. And then you kind of look at the underground cave systems and you're like, wow, there's a gigantic correlation there. It's fucking wild. And then if you want to go real schizo, you overlay the Bigfoot sightings. And the correlation is fucking crazy, dude. It's wild. So is Bigfoot out there ganking Granny? I don't know. I like to think so. She's getting that fat hog that makes her instant orgasm. So.
But it answers one other question of like, well, then where is Bigfoot, right? If he exists, then how come no one's ever gotten footage aside from like Patterson Gimlin and some of the other ones? So one of those examples, like, okay, well, maybe he's in deep underground military bases, right? Maybe a combination of that and these underground cave systems, that would be the perfect way, because then if you get a sight of them, well, now you're just getting snatched, and now you're also part of that underground cave system, and no one sees you ever again either.
But I mean, I think you have, in my mind anyway, logically, I think the underground cave system is the one that would make the most sense. Also, because even whenever they talked about in North America, when they cornered the giants, they ran into a cave. That's supposedly the last of the giants that the Native Americans killed off. They cornered in a cave, which was, that's where they stayed. And if any of that is correlated, if there's any connection between any of it, caves or whatever, inner earth, or whatever you want to talk, is probably the most likely, that in my mind anyway, considering. What is the 411? What was that?
So that was a documentary made by David Paulides. Really interesting documentary, just about people that have been going missing like left and right in national parks. And he's just kind of, well, at first he was kind of like, huh, this is interesting, this is weird. And then I think he's kind of gone down like the UFO rabbit hole. Hey, Iman Rat, we love you, buddy.
What's up, Rat?
And I don't know where. So that kind of gets into the paranormal and kind of what people call the phenomena. And so there is a group of folks that believe, like, because we could go down the physical rabbit hole with Bigfoot, because there's more what I would point to as like evidence for physical Bigfoot, but we could also go down to, what is he, some sort of interdimensional creature? So there has also been tons and tons of, I guess, sightings that correlated with UFO sightings as well, where you'll see these teeny, like sometimes they're these small Bigfoot that are like up to your knee, but look like, what do they call Bigfoot in Africa? That's actually a great question, Thomas. I don't know what they call Bigfoot in Africa. We've all through Asia, we have stories. South America, we have stories of Bigfoot. I don't know what they call them in Africa, but they actually have
more than one African Bigfoot. One of them's called like the water bogan or something.
Well, it's interesting too, dude, because like if we want to go down the animal route, like, is this like some sort of like species that's in our, the animal connection, whatever, is that they, for the longest time, they said it wasn't real. They had a 6 foot tall chimpanzee. And it was found to be true. There are giant chimpanzees that stand almost eye to eye with you, Stax.
I never heard that before.
And yeah, you can look them up. They're giant chimpanzees. They are no longer a myth. They
Have you ever heard of humanzees?
And we get into that too.
Wherever you want. You go wherever you want. Hey, Drew, just as a thought. When somebody says you can look it up, it's a big help if somebody that's not talking can look it up, maybe. Okay.
I was sitting in front of my TV. I'm like, I'm missing my popcorn. Like I got.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. But I mean, honestly, Nate, Tom, take it wherever you want, whatever you think is the most interesting. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just very curious, because half of the things you've said, I'm completely unaware of.
Well, I want to tag on what Nate was saying about the tall chimpanzees that no one thought existed until they started getting multiple reports. There's also this is a Soviet scientist named Ivan Ivanov or something. It sounds like it's like a fake name, but it was so he was in charge of this medical program for the Russians, where they wanted to make super soldiers, and they thought, what if we could create a soldier that had the strength of a chimpanzee, specifically as an orangutan, but of a chimpanzee, and half the strength of a chimp, but half the intellect of a human. so they could have these super soldiers that would be like super strong and just smart enough to be able to follow commands. Well, part of this research was that he was just trying to get humans to mate with chimpanzees, and again orangutans specifically. That was the actual primate that he had his hands on, that he did all these research with. So he just had human women just trying different things with orangutans to see what would take. And apparently, I mean, there's rumors that some of them took, that there was a version of these humanzees. But again, this is not just some weird X-Files episode. This was real documented
Tell me
research.
Putin looks normal to you. Putin kind of has a monkey face. I could, yeah.
So, but again, so now you've got the military thinking, well, maybe this is possible, and even if it is possible, we need to figure out a way to weaponize this. And then part of me thinks, well, someone in the U.S. government was like, well, hell, if Russia is doing humanzees, then I'll be damned if Russia's gonna beat the world to the first humanzee. So now we have to do humanzee research.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean that can get you into Epstein too. What he was doing at Zorro Ranch, I don't know. Some of that.
Well,
But
I mean, even well, real quick, even with the CRISPR technology, I mean, I've heard through sources I consider to be pretty knowledgeable that China has been trying to do that to make super soldiers like that, and I don't doubt that the U.S. is doing it at all. But I've just heard people that I
well,
consider
dude,
to be
got convicted. A guy got convicted for this specifically because he made some humans that were
oh shit.
yeah. Here's the humanzee right here. But he made some. I think it was like he made some kids that were they were immune to HIV and they had like 170 IQ or something like that. He started making some embryos and it surfaced, and so he got thrown in prison. They probably didn't really put him in prison, but like China had to pretend like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. He probably has like a fucking sweet lab now, and he's behind bars.
Yeah.
well, I think it's common knowledge now that cloning is possible. Remember Dolly the sheep? That was in the 90s. So
Yep.
it is possible. The only reason that you wouldn't have a human clone is because of ethical reasons, not because of scientific reasons.
This ethical just means we can't tell everybody. That doesn't, that's not going to stop them. I kind of think, we brought this up on the last show. It seems to be an occurring theme for the last couple shows. But even when the military went into Iraq and they wanted Gilgamesh, they were looking for his tomb. On some level, I think that because they say he became Gibberine, so I think that they might have been in search for him for various reasons. One of them could have been DNA. Maybe they would want to clone something like that. Again, you're in the super soldier region, or like something that they feel like they can capitalize on in some way, whether it's for themselves or for a soldier. It's just where my mind goes. I have no doubt that whatever they can do, they've done. It's just a matter of what they're willing to tell us they've done.
So, I mean, if you want to go down that route, and we definitely like to go down that route. So we can talk about like Gilgamesh. We can talk about the Anunnaki connection, how that like very easily like mimics the idea of like the Nephilim coming down here and breeding with people. And the story is that like they came here and they found a race of hominids, right? And then they took these hominids and they started doing genetic testing on them and made a kind of race of people that were like smart but weren't too physically like, you know what I mean? They kind of made a slave race. And to me, that always sounded like humanity. To me, that sounds like we are what the Anunnaki created. We are probably the Nephilim. That is what we are. We are half God. We are created in his image, but also we have the shortened lifespan and, a certain amount of strength, but not too much strength, a certain amount of intellect and not too much intellect. I think that we probably are the Nephilim. We are the weird offspring that were made by the gods, quote unquote, from these people that came from the stars, from maybe some sort of advanced race. I'm not sure. But and then to me, what was left? Were there some of those hominids that they had not experimented on? To me, those probably are the Bigfoot. So the wild hominids that were still out there that didn't get experimented on, but they were the most intelligent, biggest, strongest creature that was here, that was natural. Because like what humans, we're fucking weird, dude. What's another animal that's anything like us? We're sitting
Yeah.
here talking on a black screen, talking to each other using this black mirror to sit there and talk, where somebody in Timbuktu can sit here and watch it on their cell phone and jerk off to my pretty beard. This is a weird thing. No other species on this planet does that. We are the aliens. We're the weird ones. So to me, I think that maybe Bigfoot is our hyper intelligent cousin that maybe went a different route. Also, if you want to get into the European hairy man, we could talk about that a little bit. As far as like Thomas, we love to talk about this. There, and I never can remember this guy's name, and I don't know if you can pull it up real fast or Drew. But there was a scientist from Russia that was doing experiments on foxes, and this is really famous now. It's called like the Russian fox experiment. It's pretty easy to find. But essentially, what he was doing is he was raising some foxes, and he was like, "Hey, this one like will come over here and sniff my hand and lick me. This one's a cunt and will try to bite me." Right? So he was like, "I'm gonna separate these two, the cunts and the sweethearts." Right? So then he had two, and like maybe the cunts would have a sweetheart and the sweethearts would have a cunt, and he'd like throw the cunt over here and the sweetheart over there and keep it like consistent. And so he just kept the sweethearts hump the sweethearts, the cunts hump the cunts, and within like a couple of generations, what you were seeing was the sweethearts started getting dopey ears. The sweethearts started getting spots. Yeah, you can pull this up. Yeah. And what started happening with the cunts, they started getting like gnarly ass teeth. They started getting like more aggressive, and it's still the same animal. They're still genetically identical. One just takes this trait, one takes this trait, and you start seeing how they start acting. Yeah, floppy hair, curly tails. They start getting it's really fascinating. And to me, it's like, what if humans were like that? What if there is an offshoot of wild people? Because the whole idea is like, again, something simple as like a pig. You can take a domesticated like farm pig, and if you throw it out in the forest, within a few weeks it starts getting like real bristles. You know what I mean? They start getting fucking horns on their face. They start to turn into something that they're not, you know? And to me, it's like, what if the human race went this way? Obviously, we're the soft pussies, and we're the sweethearts. What if a branch of humanity started going this way? Like, kind of like, think about like the Mongols. You know what I mean? This idea of these wild men of the steppe. Like that's kind of where some of the wild men came from. Were these hard people from the steppe? They started getting hairier, bristlier, taller, more muscular, and you start getting these like legends and stories of this wild man that fucking stinks, dude, and is brutal and is like very capable and is way too tall. You're like, what is that? And what if they're just our cousins? What if they are us? What if Bigfoot is us? They just are a little bit more, they're less domesticated per se.
Well, I like the opposite of this too, though. What if they're not our cousins? What if they're not like us? And one of the ones, this is a shout out to Chaz of the Dead, but that he had this really great example that it's a house somewhere in Florida. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a house that is rumored to both have been haunted. It was rumored to have some weird metallic orb sphere thing in it so that it attracts UFO people. And then there had also been some Bigfoot sightings, or the swamp ape, which is like the Florida version of Bigfoot. So this one specific house, you get ghost hunters will show up, Bigfoot hunters, and like UFO people. And he was describing how it was surreal because like an alien researcher would show up and there'd be a Bigfoot guy there, and the alien guy's like, take this serious, you know what I mean? Like everyone knows that Bigfoot's not real. That's silly. We're here to do serious alien research. And then the ghost guy is like, you're the one being silly. You know, aliens aren't real. Ghosts are real. This is a ghost house. And the premise that Chaz was pointing out was like, what if it's literally like all the same thing? What if there's just some sort of a phenomenon that we can't wrap our heads around, so that if you believe in aliens, you see an alien. If you believe in Bigfoot, you see a Bigfoot. And if you believe in ghosts, then you see like some weird apparition, but maybe it's the exact same thing. That would also help account for how come there's not video footage? How come there's not any modern sightings? Well, maybe because it adapts to whatever. And going back to what Doc Brown was saying, if you've got this magical Technicolor dream coat that can make you do or look or anything, then that would also explain all this.
I think there's something to that because, like, It's my Stack's farmstead. We have animals, and I've said this in the past, but like when you have animals, it kind of shows you a side of nature and people at the same time, where you you can kind of see how you're the animal in the way that you're farmed through the system. And like you can get animals, you can train them to do certain things, you can domesticate them. Like we let our chickens free range. And with that there's danger. So like, there could be a fox, there could be a hawk, there could be anything. And they after a few generations, the older birds are the ones that give the cues to the younger ones, and through that, a few generations, they're sort of half wild in a way where they know how to react when. And the difference to that would be is if you had a bird in a cage and you just put it in the woods, it's going to be gone in a few days. Um, so I mean, I think that there's something to the idea, no matter what way you see it, anyway, that your your environment around you kind of builds you to who you are, and then through generations of it, you can get softer, you can get harder. It just depends, like we've seen people in the past, um, when all they do is work on the field. These dudes, they're jacked, like not jacked like you would see, but they're strong as hell. They can do some awesome shit that a normal person that even goes to the gym a lot is incapable of, because of a lifetime and then generations to follow that have done that. So, I mean, I think there's some merit there in that point, that, through your environment, it kind of creates a different type of being for sure.
Well, also, if you look into feral children, like people that were literally raised by wolves, raised by animals between their formative years. And it really gets controversial area, because I don't know if you can necessarily research feral children without like creating a feral child, but the part of it ties into this concept of like the bicameral brain theory. The bicameral mind theory is basically that you have to learn consciousness, and that you might never learn consciousness, and in that regard, you are just like an animal. You're a wild animal that doesn't necessarily have self-reflection and like a conscience, and that if you don't develop one by a certain age, again, it's all controversial, but I think like around like 7, like if you haven't formed your conscience by 7, then you will in some ways kind of be locked into being a feral animal for the rest of your life, even down to the part where walking on or crawling on all fours will always feel more natural than trying to walk upright, which might legitimately be more natural than walking upright. But again, like here is something that's physically changing the way that not only your body works, but the way that your brain will work forever, just based on how exposed you are to nature versus if you're domesticated by other humans.
Yeah, think Mowgli. If he didn't miraculously turn okay at the end.
Yeah, what was that movie from the '90s where the guy was with his parents in a rainforest and they
Tarzan.
yeah, well, it went by a different name in a Hollywood film, and he comes back to the States and they end up catching one of the gorillas that raised him for an experiment in a lab, and he tries to free it, and they try to domesticate him as a human, make him wear suits, and he could never really kick those habits, I guess.
I
I
know
don't
you're
know.
talking about. I want to say it was Anthony Hopkins
It was. I'm trying to remember.
or
Wow.
Edward Norton, or there was one called Primal that was very similar to what you're describing.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy how it was all based about gorillas, chimps, and not like wolves or anything, but that same kind of theory.
And even most of the knowledge we have about
Encino Man.
how Encino was it Encino Man? Is that what they
Was
were
it?
talking about?
Yeah.
He was a caveman, I think, more than a gorilla or anything.
All right,
Um,
let's see.
But yeah, I mean, I think that it just goes to show that this is another version like that. Encino Man was Wild Man, so I mean, by the rational stretching of what a Bigfoot would entail, I think Bigfoot does include Encino Man.
Yeah, that was more like caveman frozen in the tundra and thawed out, in modern time. So that's not quite it, but I'm trying to see if I could figure out what the hell movie I was talking about.
And I want to, before we get too far into, I want to mention one of my other favorite Bigfoot theories, and that's that Bigfoot is highly technologically advanced, like Atlantean, like there's an Atlantis for Bigfoots, and that if you ever do have a Bigfoot sighting or like the Patterson Gimlin footage, that was an actual homeless Bigfoot, that was a Bigfoot that's been excommunicated from a highly advanced society, and that's the only reason that someone's capturing them on a VHS in the middle of the woods is because that Bigfoot is also roughing it.
Yeah,
you
we've had
you
some,
think that? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nate.
I was just going to say we've had some really some out there researchers that have been on the show, and one of them that he shall not be named because he hates us now, because Thomas, because you're a Freemason. You remember that his freak out?
There's been at least three.
Anyways,
So you have to narrow it down even more, apparently.
like halfway through the show, he was like, "What? You're a Freemason?" And this guy had like a crash out. Anyways, fuck him. But he's one of the big Bigfoot researchers that we had on the show, specifically talking about this. And I guess Bigfoot lives in Telos, that lives in like Mount St. Helens, or not Mount St. Helens. What's the fucking one in Thomas? What's the one in California? Mount Shasta. He lives in Telos and Mount Shasta, in this highly advanced, like crystalline, like beautiful palaces inside of the mountain, and it's all underground. And he has evidence and stuff. But anyways, like, yes, they are vegan, by the way. I guess that's the way they have to be, because that's the intellectual way to be. Fuck you, vegans. But they, yes, he was saying that, like, the ones that you happen to see out in the forest, there's two explanations. One is they might be out camping. They might be out camping. He says that they take these really, like, when you see the UFO sightings, that's them, like, taking out, like, their Ferrari out in the middle of nowhere to go camping. And so you see the UFO because they're out there, like, kind of slumming it out with us. And they're like, hey, I want to go and, like, experience, like, the ruggedness and stuff like that, too. So that's maybe what you see. But also, he says, you run into the homeless Bigfoots. Those are their outcasts, the shitty hobo that you see, if you happen to find a hobo, and that's why they stink and why they're like really unkempt and kind of crabby and kind of have like an attitude. So
Theory before. Let me just say real quick, if anybody has any questions for these guys, Thomas is graced us with his presence. So if you have any questions for him, put them in the chat. I would love to see if anybody has any input that he could feedback on. My question, though, is that the Bigfoot tape, the notorious one, do you guys feel like there's any relevance to that? Like that was actually a Bigfoot, or was that a...
We talking Patterson Gimlin?
Yeah, like the notorious one from back in the day. I don't know what it's actually called.
That's the most famous one. That's the one where you see Bigfoot like this, and she's got titties, and like every single... I'm not wearing a Bigfoot t-shirt, but I usually have some Bigfoot swag next to me. Anyway, right. Yeah, the silhouette version of Bigfoot that you normally see on every single poster t-shirt, that is from the Patterson Gimlin film. It was a couple of folks in the 40s in Northern California, 1949 or 1950. Anyways, in Northern California, up near where I grew up, actually. And they found, or they ran into this lady Bigfoot, and they busted out the camera, and they're stabilized versions now using AI where you can get a much better image of Bigfoot. And to me, some people like Thomas was like, see, it looks kind of fake to me. I was like, actually, it looks more real to me. So it's kind of, I guess, maybe what you want to see when you look at this footage, but the more stabilized version of the footage. But it was a lady, beautiful Bigfoot. And I actually have a theory about this. So if it is more of an ethereal type of creature, if it is something that is more like, I guess, maybe spiritual, or like the different frequencies, different things like that, like whatever this thing is, it allows you to see it if it wants you to be able to see it. And I think that maybe the only way that it was ever actually captured with real footage maybe was the Patterson Gimlin. And I think it's because we were using more like if you saw the camera they were using, they had actual like VHS tapes that they were shoving in this thing and they were holding it up. Like to me, something as rudimentary as that was able to capture something like that frequency, and it hadn't like run into that frequency yet, because I think this thing can make itself invisible, or you know what I mean, like it can change its frequency the way that it is being itself. Yeah,
This is
presenting
where
itself.
you lose me a little bit on this one. I think the
I
Patterson
like it.
Gimlin is a dude wearing a suit. I
No
think
way.
Yeah.
that, yeah, 100%. And I also think it's the theory of like, oh well, the VHS camcorder worked one time, and then that one Bigfoot told all the other Bigfoots, "Hey
Who's my
guys,
Star Trek friends here that watch, like when you shoot the Borg, the first time they were like
right? No, I
introduced the
get it. I
nuclear
get it.
weapon, it blew up that fucking Borg ship, and then they were like, you know what? I know that frequency now. That nuke is harmless on me now. This is my theory. Especially if the government is in on this, they don't allow there to be cameras made anymore that can pick up on Bigfoot frequency, and that's why we're not getting any good footage anymore, because the government's in on it.
I'll say it is an answer to some of the questions. Like, why are there no sightings? Well, maybe because sightings can only happen with organic eyeballs, and for some reason they know how to dodge. But it's like it's the exact same excuse with aliens and with ghosts and with Bigfoot. People say the same thing about ghosts, right? How come in the Victorian era, when they had just figured out photography, everyone's got a ghost photo? Like everybody probably has at least one Victorian ghost photo, and now that everyone has a camera in their pocket 24/7, where's all the ghost photos? How come we're not
Bring back
seeing?
those old cameras, Thomas. Then we're
Well,
able to
it's
get the footage
because
we want.
ghosts are smart now. Ghosts are like computer programmers, and they know how to use Facebook, and they know all the new technology and LiDAR and 4K and all of that, right? Like ghosts are so smart. And it's the same thing of like the spirit boxes. Like ghosts also know how to jump between FM signals and what FM signals are, because that's the only way they'd be able to like interact with all of this.
I feel personally attacked, by the way. Also, I've had conversations with ghosts using a spirit box, so no,
I
it is
mean,
interesting, dude. I think that there might be something to whatever this like interdimensional spiritual type of creature, because again, with what Thomas was covering just a minute ago, is this idea of a being that allows itself to be seen if it wants to be seen, and your brain only being able to really recognize it, or I guess like decipher what the fuck this thing is. This whatever this is. This again, they call it sometimes the phenomena, and so this could be a UFO experience. This could be a ghost experience. This could be an experience that you have with God. Whatever this like. Go ahead, Thomas.
Well, I just want to say, as far fetched as some of that even sounds, right? Of like, well, maybe Bigfoot can phase himself in and out and decide if you see him or not. If you've ever watched footage of a freaking octopus, if you try to describe how an octopus can do camouflage and do the hypnotic patterns to someone that doesn't believe an octopus exists, they're like, come on, bro. Like, what does it do again? It flashes its body and it hypnotizes you, and it can like
You can
squint you
change the
a hole, and it's
texture
like-
too, where it takes on the texture of the rock too, and the
Right,
color
right.
instantly. Fuck you.
So I'm just so I
be
guess
glad.
the point being though is as far fetched as some of the Bigfoot stuff sounds, if you compare it to other animals that we know 100% exist, all of a sudden it doesn't seem as far fetched.
I'm actually glad you said that, because I was thinking that for the last few minutes, that the problem is in reality, these types of things, it's like there's always, and there almost has to be, some kind of truth in it. Like, and it gets exaggerated probably. Different people imagine different things, and some people just straight up lie. So everything kind of gets, you know, messed up in that way. But I think on some level there is got to be some truth to it. Now, what that truth is, I wouldn't know. But I think on some level there's got to be something that's actual, physical, real on some level. Now, I couldn't even imagine what it is, but it's a great point though when you say the octopus, because if no one's never seen one, they would not believe you for a second. There was one question. I have no idea if this is a troll or not, but have you seen the Todd standing Bigfoot footage? What do you think of it? Have you heard of that or no?
He was a Canadian guy, I think, that also just had some for this. I think this is also slightly older footage.
Yeah, I never. Just curious if we were getting trolled or not.
If there is a quick YouTube video, Drew, do you want to pull up who the heck is Todd Standing? I would love to see.
Todd
I
Standing.
might be
Let's see.
familiar with it if I saw the
Todd Standing on YouTube.
Just see if it comes up.
Todd Standing Bigfoot.
Hold on.
See what pops up.
Yeah.
This one also, in my opinion, looks a little bit like a suit.
Seen it? Okay.
Yeah.
See, this is when you have to take everything Thomas says with a grain of salt because he can't let us know all the things or else.
What it is.
Yeah.
So he's not just a skeptic.
In his heart, Patterson Gimlin is real.
so Thomas is not just like the skeptic of it. He's the one that's giving cover. He gives the cover for it, right? Is that part of the Freemason?
There actually is a Freemasonic group called the Bigfoot Travelers, which is it's a small little set. Like back when getting an RV was like a big thing that like grandparents would do. But there was a group of you have to be a master mason in order to join this like camping mason.
In Washington or Oregon, wasn't it, Thomas?
Vancouver, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
Vancouver, Washington, not Canada.
Yeah. That's 10 minutes from my house. No, 45, I guess, if you have to drive the highway. Anyways,
just a little bit, if you're putting it on the screen. Yeah. Is this it?
Did I spell it right? Todd Standing, Bigfoot?
Thomas, you're telling me that's a guy in a suit?
You see these eyes right here. It's looking kind of Hollywoodish.
It's just Todd Standing.
Imagine him talking about it live in Oregon. Yeah, this is. Oh, what the fuck?
He's in Oregon. I better reach out to this guy, have him on the show.
Real Bigfoot footage.
Bigfoot footage.
I have some pretty interesting Bigfoot folks that I have lined up, Thomas. So I'll try to figure out a time that works for us both. But because not that long ago, there was a guy that had the actual Bigfoot remains. If you guys heard about that, it was pretty recent, and he was just at like the big World Fair or whatever it was, and he has a dead Bigfoot, and he's more than willing to come on the show and talk about it. He has an actual Bigfoot corpse.
Do you believe him? Like, do you think it's legit?
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, well, that's a good.
I'm Mulder. I want to believe, and Thomas is my Scully.
Yeah.
That's a good balance. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I don't know, dude. See, I think that's part of the problem is I try to be more logical about it and then jump out the window on Anunnaki and I don't know. I think that if it does exist, which, there's a chance. It's never a zero because we just don't know enough. We don't know what's in the deepest forests of the world. We don't know what's in the deepest oceans of the world. We don't know a lot of stuff. We don't know what's in Antarctica, apparently.
I'll just give you a for instance, dude. So I think this was in Rhode Island. There was a guy that he was in his mid-20s, and he was just kind of like, I don't know if you want to say nutted up or just like, he kind of Kaczynski'd for a minute and was just like, you know what, fuck society. I'm going to go walk into the forest and say, fuck you guys. And so he did. And everyone was like, he went missing, maybe he died, he was like a missing person, no one knew what the fuck happened to him. And for like 25 years, like you can look this up too, he was in the forest just fucking off. And the only way he got caught was eventually people started putting out trail cams. And like they eventually got him, but like he was so sophisticated and smart and just kind of wanted. And when they finally got a hold of him, he just like, dude, I hated society, I hated all of you. I just wanted to fuck off. And so he was out in the middle of the woods, and he said that he would build like these like crazy intricate fortresses, but he would just kind of mask them, and people would walk right past him and had no fucking idea he was within like 2 feet of them all the fucking time, dude. And he was like, I think there was like a YMCA and there was like a few different like boy camps out there. Probably some diddling was happening. Anyways, he would go there and he would steal like supplies from them. He would never build a wood fire because the smoke would like give him away. So he'd steal their propane. He would cook from, and like this was in Maine and it was like horrific winters, dude. And he found a way to survive. And he would just like He just stole a bunch of food. He'd break into people's freezers and shit and take all their meat. And this
I
guy
think
got away with it for like I was like 20 plus years, dude. And no one knew they were inches away from him at all times. And if that's just some random dude, tell me that something super sophisticated couldn't fucking hide.
I mean, it's a good point for sure. I think I remember what you're talking about, and the reason why they were looking for him was because he was breaking into camps or something like that.
They finally, yeah, they were like, what the hell? We just lost half a cow. Where the fuck did that go?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like like 3 propane tanks and half a cow are missing. And so then they started like setting up like secret cameras and like trip switches and shit, and they finally got him back. But he got away with it for fucking decades, dude. Just a dude, just living in the woods, living his best life.
It's so much harder now with all the drones. Every civilian's got a drone.
This was not that long ago.
It was early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it was shockingly not that long ago, and he got away with it for so fucking long.
Wow.
Interesting. It's
I mean,
very
he,
interesting.
maybe he was walking around in a ghillie suit the whole time too. Might have helped.
I'm sure he smelled bad, just as bad as a Bigfoot, also. Well, what? Let's just try this. Like in conclusion, Thomas, what do you think? Is there merit to any of this? Is there any chance that it actually exists
I think
in what form?
100%. I think that out of all the different paranormal, cryptid, conspiracy things out there, this is like one of the more tame, vanilla, not that mind blowing. If someone were to say, "Hey, they actually did find a wild man," or they found some, it's not
They
like
did, and he's going to be on the show soon.
right, yeah. You got to tune in. It's gonna be a Patreon only. But if they were to find that, it's not like it changes everything that you've ever known. It's not the same as if we found an actual angel or a demon or an alien, or like the laws of physics have just changed and they've inverted. You find a Bigfoot and it's like we knew it. You know what I mean? Like we knew there was one out there, finally found one, and then it just comes to the matter of like, well, how long have they been hiding? Why have they been hiding? What kind of extra resources do they have? Can we CRISPR their asses and like make super soldiers? I think that's and I guess that the most compelling evidence is that if there was a chance that you could weaponize Bigfoot, that would also explain why you don't see him. Because the second the military is like, oh, this is a military strategic advantage, we can't let anyone know that we got this. That would also explain why you've never heard of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned for a second, and I may have missed it, but you said, I guess there was a Masons, like, is it a lodge or a section of them that
No,
do
it's
something
like
with
a
Bigfoot?
separate group. Like you have to be a master mason to be part of it, but it were people that just went out camping. And they got RVs. Just think about like the grandparents that would bring the
Yeah,
kid to like Yellowstone and stuff. There was
yeah.
actual Masonic camping groups, and one of those camping groups was in Vancouver, Washington, and they were called the Bigfoot Travelers. And I only know this because I saw someone wearing a patch, and has the word Bigfoot big with a big foot on it. So yeah, that's where it came from. And is it tongue in cheek? I don't know, but I mean, if someone did know about Bigfoot, maybe it's the Masons.
I remember there was a show, and I want to say it was maybe History Channel or something along those lines a few years back. And it was a gentleman, his family, they had this land that I want to say it was in Washington, but I could be wrong. It was very, very mountainous and rocky terrain. It was a produced show, so for whatever it's worth, that's you know whether they're trying to sell you on something or not. However, this guy's grandfather made it to this mountaintop where he attempted to do a thing, camp for hunting or something along those lines. And when the construction started, they couldn't get far at all. This is from his grandfather, which is what led up to this guy. But they were being harassed allegedly by a Bigfoot. And, I want to say it's his grandfather. It's one or two generations away. It's sort of like a family thing, something that they handed down, and people got wind of it, and they would take groups of people up there, and it was almost a guarantee that like while they were there, they almost knew what was going to happen at nighttime. Things getting thrown at them, noises, massive trees moving that shouldn't be moving. And again, it's a produced show, so for whatever it's worth, they could be faking it, but if they were faking it, it was well done. And it just popped into my head. It's not something I ever even thought about again, but it is something that, like, I mean, there was some stuff that you would call unexplainable during that show that would make most people think it's at very least possible. I mean, you go deep enough into the woods, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you probably didn't know was around. In Pennsylvania, for example, they tell you that there's no mountain lions, that there's no cougars, big cats, that they've been extinct, they've been gone for a while. If you talk to a park ranger or anybody that's out, you know, whatever, I forget what they're called now, but the conservation officers, they will battle you if you insinuate that you've seen one because they don't want people to think that it's possible. I know people that said that they've seen one, and you know they migrate, they move around. There's ones that are from the north to the south of Pennsylvania that they know are around, and they migrate. So there's not a zero chance that somebody could have seen one. That said, if you mention it to these conservation officers, they will, like you said something about their mother, like they will argue and battle with you about that topic because they
It's the
don't
same
want
thing with
people to think that
archaeology,
they're
dude.
there.
It gets like oddly political for no fucking reason at all.
Yeah.
It's like if you try to mention that maybe humanity is a little older than maybe 8,000 years, that maybe, hey, we've been hunter and gatherers for, maybe 200,000 years ago, people will lose their fucking mind.
You know what's wild too is that story that you were just saying sounds almost identical to a story from the late 1800s, written by President Teddy Roosevelt. The Teddy Roosevelt had a book called Into the Wilderness, and he talks about this guy Bauman that he ran into, and Bauman
I think that
had
was
the
it.
exact same story, that Bauman was being harassed by this Bigfoot, and if this might have been the same story.
Right, I think you're right. Yeah.
This was in like the 1890s or something. So again, and I think that there's other presidents too. I can't remember what the other president was, that also had a Bigfoot sighting. So again, it comes to one of those things of like, who do you trust the word of? So okay, maybe a random person on a podcast on the internet, you're like, whatever, if they care about, if they think Bigfoot existed. What if it was your pastor? What if it was like a Mormon elder in your church? That happened. What if it was literally a military officer that you're enlisted with that just came back from duty and said that they saw Bigfoot? Would you believe them? Would you believe the president of the United States? Like, in every class of society, you've got someone in all positions that has at least had a Bigfoot sighting at one point.
Again, I think that the odds are not zero. It's just tough sometimes whenever the caliber of people that usually make the claims is usually the problem, right? Because it's usually they are on some level look sort of like a paranoid schizophrenic in the way that they're trying to present what they've seen. In the rare cases that the people that claim that they've seen it are normal, that's whenever it kind of starts to lend some credence to the possibility that this person might be telling the truth. And that's where shit kind of gets watered down, where you're like, that dude's crazy. He says he's seen one. This dude doesn't seem crazy, and he can tell the story. He can articulate the story without sounding like a madman. And, it's just, I don't know where to put it. It's one of those things, again, in some circles, if you bring it up, you're a crazy person. In some circles, you can go way down even to the Anunnaki trail, right?
I would say that in those circles, though, what's interesting is that the circles that tend to be hunters and people that actually spend more time outdoors and in the wilderness, they'll probably be more open to Bigfoot than someone that's lived their entire life in a city. The person in the city is like, oh, that's silly, that's ridiculous. You talk to a hunter and you're expecting them to be like, that silly kid. And they're actually going to be like, let me tell you this story about this, this thing that I saw this one time. Like, and honestly, that's probably where I'm at, is that I would be like, I'm just, a city slicker that's like, whatever, Bigfoot, okay, that's cute, that's quaint. But I know enough people that are actual outdoorsmen, professional hunters, entire lives, and they've told me stories. And I mean, I trust them over my own skepticism. If someone that has been a hunter their entire life, that like legitimately is a professional hunter, and they're like, I saw this thing, it talked to me telepathically, I didn't talk about it for 30 years because I knew everyone would just make fun of me. And you know what?
Yep.
Now I'm old enough that I don't care if anyone makes fun of me. And here's the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up, dude. And I'll just throw my little 2 cents in here real quick. It's just like, especially when you've been talking to folks that, again, live like you're saying, Thomas, that aren't city slickers, that are out in the middle of the woods. Like the first, our first documentary, again, you can watch it. We called The Anomaly Hunters. The documentary is called The Search for Psychic Sasquatch. We had a few guests that came on. Scott Pace was one of them. Actually, he's featured in the documentary that he was one that was talking about before. Chris Matthew from Forbidden Knowledge News was in there, and also Sean Hibbler was on there, and he was talking about some Bigfoot experiences. And he was talking about going to visit. In the flat Earth community, this guy is kind of famous, the Flat Earth Millionaire.
Hibbler, yeah.
Yeah, he was visiting the Flat Earth Millionaire up in Texas, and he was talking about like, dude, these fucking Bigfoots. He goes, it's not a if, it's like, no, they're right over there. And he's like, you're not even allowed to go on parts of his property. He goes, you walk up to this area, and he goes, all of a sudden your brain is intruded by this feeling. Turn around, you stupid fuck, get out of here. You're not safe here. Go around. Go, like it's almost like a psychic attack where it's almost like Thomas, like what's that? Like the Cuban what do they call it? The psychic warfare that they do on people. You know what I'm talking about?
I know you're talking about. Yeah, I forgot the Cuban disease thing. But it's basically like a microwave. They can beam it to you, and then you can't think straight.
Yes, 100%. It's something like that where and that's what I experienced. So if you go and watch our documentary, all of us that were there, everybody was skeptical, but me and my buddy, like my son, was definitely not thinking we were going to find Bigfoot. We had a psychic intrusion that told us, turn around, stupid. If you go this way, we're going to fucking kill you. It's a weird, bizarre experience that we all shared. So you can call it a delusion, but it was a shared delusion. Like I don't know how to explain that. All of us got the same message, and we had the same vision of this Bigfoot. I think there's something to it, dude, and I can't explain it. And again, is this interdimensional? Is this physical? Is it a physical thing that can talk to you telepathically? I don't know, dude. And that's why sometimes I just refer to it as the phenomena.
Nate, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is that what the tin foil under the hat is for? To kind of protect and shield from those kind of rays and from that type of mental intrusion?
This is for because I'm fashionable. But yeah.
I love it.
I'm going to pull up your Kickstarter and put links in it in the comments after, just in case.
To the documentary as well, but yes, please, yeah.
Okay.
Does Bigfoot?
That said, I do want to add this, and it's sort of a question for the both of you. Have you guys ever been to Appalachia, in the Appalachian Mountains at all?
My family is from Appalachia, but I have not been there myself.
No.
What about you?
I've never been to Appalachia.
Never?
Never.
Okay. Here's why I ask, because I grew up here, and it's not something, it's inherent and people don't really talk about it, but it's like when you're here, you grow up here, you kind of know it. You do not go into the woods at night. There is something, like you can obviously, but just the thing, Nate, the feeling that you're describing, it happens. I believe you 100%. And it's very much that way in Appalachia, especially certain parts of Appalachia. Like when you start getting into the very, very dense rural environments in the mountains, there is some kind of sensor, some kind of feeling that goes off, and like you don't go in the woods at night, not by yourself, not unarmed, ever. It's everybody. It's like sort of ingrained in the way where like, don't do that, because you're asking for trouble. Because when you do, like if you do have to venture out, you get that feeling. I think it's probably similar to what you're saying about, okay, there's a problem here. Like, we shouldn't be here. And most people that have been in the woods and the rural parts where it's very dense, they'll tell you that, especially the ones that are not from here, because it presents itself pretty quickly. There's something about the mountains here at night that will put you on guard automatically. So, I mean, in that way, I can relate. I kind of understand what you're trying to say.
And the term that I was looking for was Havana syndrome. And it's very much this idea where they can use maybe like frequency weapons against you in a way where it's like, oh, maybe microwaves, maybe like frequency where they can actually attack your body. And they've admitted the existence of these. And yes, also, yeah, don't whistle when you're out there, dude. Yeah, and yeah, if you hear your name, you didn't. Yeah, 100%.
You do not go to things that call you in the woods at night, ever, no matter what.
100%. I mean, I don't know. What if what you're finding out there is pretty dope, dude? Like, I remember somebody was like asking me, and I think they were an experiencer, and they were just like, "Look, what if you ran into Bigfoot?" And he was like, "Dude, I'm gonna take you to Telos. I like you. I'm gonna show you advanced technology. I'm gonna take you back to like the place, dude. This is it. But you can't ever leave. Are you coming or not?" Like, what if they give you like the devil's bargain? Like, I'll show you. Do you want all the advanced technology? Do you want free energy? Do you want this and that, the other? But you got to live with us in this place. You can't come
No.
back to normal society. And I think when you have kids, the answer is easy. No,
Yeah.
unless I
Real
can bring my
quick.
stupid rat with me. If I can bring my kid, sure, let's go. Let's do it. But for some
My pack of
handsome
pickles.
devil that's available right now, single, ready to mingle. No, Thomas is not single. I'm sorry, Thomas. Sorry, Mrs. Thomas. But for somebody like Thomas that doesn't have kids, he'd be like, "Fuck, dude, show me all of it. Yeah, let's go."
No, no. I mean, because I would be like, I don't know what your definition of magical technology is, because I hear you're a rapist. I'm not
I
coming with you.
well,
Get the fuck away
maybe
from me.
he's not a rapist. He just has a fat hog, and you just come instant. Like so, that guy just felt like he was being gay. So you know.
Well, I mean, I'll just say this, I guess, in closing, is that I find the topic very interesting, even though I have never had any experiences that I can relate to it. That being said, that's why the description I tried to give you about how the woods are at night here is I could see something happening. I'll give you one quick thing. I have a PVS 14. Do you know what that is? Night vision. It's a night vision monocular. It usually goes on like a helmet or headgear. It's one side you can see through. White phosphor PVS 14. These things are it's like magic. You the darkest thing that you could never see turns night to day. I mean, it's amazing. But I was looking through it one night, looking down the field, and again, we don't intentionally walk into the woods at night for a reason, and this is just adds to it. But I seen an orb, and I still to this day I'm trying to make sense of what it could have been. Like, was it in the motion of it? It was like it wasn't a reflective eye from an animal creeping through the woods. The motion of it just doesn't lend itself to that. But like the way that it moved across the field, I can't explain it. But I mean, I only seen it on the night vision. I even grabbed a flashlight and put it on there just to see in the same area. Nothing, nothing at all. So I don't know what to make of that. It's one of those things again that like, I know I seen it and I know what it was that I seen, but I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to put it in a category of anything. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's me going crazy. I don't know if I'm misinterpreting something, but I imagine that anybody that's had a real experience feels the same way. So, whatever it's worth. Um, Thomas, do you want to add anything? Because I'm gonna bring up the Kickstarter and put some links in the comments whenever we leave. And Nate, if you want to send me the link, I'll make sure I put it in there so it can be looked up after. But do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Bigfoot at all, and if you heard something that you haven't heard before that we were just talking about, it's all in way more detail and illustrated and in a really fun format on this Bigfoot. So, does Bigfoot exist? And also the orb that you were talking about, we also cover in the Bigfoot pamphlet, but that there was a whole series of Bigfoot slash orb sightings in the 70s and 80s all across the United States. So the connection between Bigfoot and orbs is well documented. And I guess it's, do you believe in orbs? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Well, you can believe in both of them. And there's plenty of cases with both of those involved in the exact same sightings.
Huh. I did not know that they were related. Now it doesn't make me feel any better. Real quick, are you saying that the association is like a 1-for-1? That every time you see a Bigfoot, there's an orb, or every time you
No,
see an
there was a
orb?
literal spike in the late 1970s throughout the 80s that Bigfoot sightings were also being correlated with orb sightings, and then there became sightings where someone said they saw Bigfoot and an orb both at the same time, and that this correlation had not existed prior to that. It spiked countrywide. And you could say like, okay, well maybe it was something where someone made a report and they made the news, so then you had like copycats, but this is before internet was able to spread things like wildfire. This was almost like a viral moment in the late 70s, where all of a sudden people across the country are reporting these Bigfoots and the orbs. So unless there was like a calculated, coordinated effort where people were like, we're just going to screw with the country, and it never came out, it's just another one of those, like, how many coincidences and anomalies will you accept?
See, this is the kind of shit. Nate, what is this? Did you want to watch this, or is this just a link?
This is a link to our documentary. Yeah, so this is
Okay, yeah.
Psychic Sasquatch right there. Yeah. So if you guys want to go give us a like and subscribe, all that fun stuff, go check us out, the Anomaly Hunters. We've also done a lot of fun, weird stuff, dude. Like for a minute, there was people that were paying us to go to their place of business. They're like, dude, I think that we're having a poltergeist. Can you guys investigate this? And we would. It was interesting. I was like, dude, are we the Ghostbusters now? Like, it was a fun little weird time. We're going to kind of get back into it. We're planning on a big one this summer. There is a very weird haunted train track up in Washington State where there was one of the worst fucking train accidents that ever happened. Several hundred people died. And there's still people that, like, hear screams and all kinds of weird disembodied voices in this area. So we're going to go and investigate it and pray for us so we don't get possessed or killed. So look out for that.
Yeah, let's not do that. Damn, there was something I was going to add, and I just went totally off. It just totally just left my mind. Drew, did you have anything you wanted to ask or add before we get out of here?
I was just kind of like in awe of the whole topic. I wish I really legitimately had some popcorn next to me. I felt like a fly on the wall, like I was on my couch, like absorbing everything. It's pretty fascinating, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
Drew, where do you start in this and where you end in here? Like with Bigfoot's real?
Well, I feel like there's I'm not going to say 50-50. I'll say 55-45. Even if it's not in modern day, at some point in history, in some type of forest somewhere on the planet, that somewhere in the Amazon rainforest, I don't know where, would not be shocked to find that some type of giant humanoid gorilla ape man did or does exist, even if they're like an endangered species and they're being hidden from us for whatever reason. I would be like, oh, okay, yeah, that now that makes sense. So yeah, but definitely nothing convincing because there's so much misinformation in general with everything.
Sax, do you have 2 minutes?
Or dude, we can stay as long as you need. I just didn't want to keep you long.
I have one more thing, and I'd feel like an asshole for not bringing it up. But if you talk to one of my fellow podcasting colleagues and a good friend, Chris Matthew from Forbidden Knowledge News, go follow him. He's fantastic. He described folks coming on his show and or people that he's talked to personally that describe specifically secret societies, like you'd think of like an Epstein type rich elite that are part of these secret groups that go and meet in the woods, and they have actual seances where they will have these occult like meetings, I guess, where they I don't know if you guys have ever seen like the stupid show man, what the fuck is that called, Full Metal Alchemist kind of thing, where they like put like a full like they like put like a seance type of thing on the fucking ground, and they go through this whole theory, they go through this whole like fucking thing, and they will bring Sasquatch there. they'll call him, they'll call upon him and bring him there, almost like bringing a demon or like summoning a demon, and then they have these experiences with these Bigfoots. And so it's like they're bringing them out of fucking nowhere, and that to me lends to this idea of this like psychic interdimensional type of creature. But then there's also, we've had a couple folks on that have been astral travelers, you'd call them, where they're sitting there and they will explore different places in the universe and different things, and they will meet Thomas. What are those people called? Like that was very much so. What the hell's her name? Back in the day, she was a dirty slut. She was Madame Blavatsky. I don't know if she was a dirty slut. I'm just like
Theosophist.
Yeah, Theosophist, where they have these ideas of
That's a weird way to get there. Okay.
Yeah, but Thomas is me and him we're a good work wife and husband here because he can read my mind.
You know the old ladies back in the day, they were super big. Oh, Theosophist. Yeah.
Yeah,
she was a whore. Oh yeah.
Madame Blavatsky and these enlightened people that you would meet, these travelers. What were they called, Thomas? They, like the
Ascended Masters.
Ascended Masters, yes. That there is a whole group of Ascended Masters that are Yeti / Sasquatches, and these
Which also
people
ties back to Mount Shasta. That's where a lot of the Ascended Masters are supposed to have ascended, was from Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta, and then also where these guys are coming from, like the Himalayas in Nepal. So you can also meet these people out there. But yes, that these are the Ascended Masters. That if you can meet them out there on the astral plane, this is the best place to meet and communicate with Bigfoot. So do some acid and have some fun. I don't know.
Taken way too much acid before when I was younger. No, I don't think I can do it again and still keep my mind.
Intentional, Stacks. Yeah, you got to be like following the Bigfoot. Yeah.
I do have a question though before we go. It just dawned on me when you two were talking. Are you two together doing another show like together? Is that what the next step for you guys are?
Yeah, we do a show called The Reality Czars, where we have interesting and bizarre conversations with anybody and everybody. So one day we might be talking to a flat earther, or we might be talking to a Bigfoot experiencer that got the hog full force, or we might be talking to somebody that's like we've had like real smart people on the show too, or we might be talking to David Icke. You know, we have
Tommy Chong.
Yeah, we have interesting conversations. That's what the show is.
We talked to Tommy Chong about Bigfoot for like a good half hour.
Yeah.
Tommy Chong. How did I not know this? I apologize. I don't know how I didn't know this. I would have wanted to watch that. Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, 100%.
Probably, yeah. Now that we're allowed back on YouTube, I think our old episodes are back up there.
We talked to him about secret tunnel under his high school and ghosts and Bigfoot and all kind of like meditation. It was a good one.
Tommy Chong's fantastic. Yeah.
Watch and subscribe. Reality Czars, right? That's the name.
That's it.
Reality Czars. I'm gonna go watch it later on if I get a chance to. Okay. Well, dude, listen, honestly, I greatly appreciate both of you taking time. I could stay and bust it up with you for as long as you wanted, but I didn't want to keep you too long. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate you staying and keeping up with the bullshit, because I am not good at this. If you can't tell, that's why it's called the shit show, because I just don't know what I'm doing. I just get behind a camera. All right. One more time. Is there anything else that you guys want to add on the way out?
Go to doesbigfootexist.com and go follow paranoidamerican.com. Get some fucking sweet t-shirts. Get some fucking swag. I've got the Illuminati Yacht Club.
That was special.
That's great.
That was just for Nate.
Okay.
But I do right now. I've got I want to say 20 left. I've got a little sampler pack. So if you're not familiar with my work, you can get 3 comics and a whole bunch of stickers and a little Alex Jones conspiracy card, trading card, and a whole bunch of other stuff. $20 shipped. So $20 shipped, 3 comics, a bunch of stickers, trading cards, and it even comes like a little calendar if I have any of those left.
Thomas is the man. Go support and love. Send lots of love towards Thomas. ParanoidAmerican.com.
ParanoidAmerican.com.
Outstanding. All right. Well, I'm Stax, and that's Drew. This was the shit show. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This was fun. You guys have a good night.